why do I keep saying yes and overcommitting? Are you saying yes to too many things? Are you finding yourself feeling overcommitted and burnt out and overwhelmed? I don't have enough time for myself. I'm saying yes to everyone else. I'm feeling obligated. I'm feeling guilty. Why am I doing that? If you said yes to any of those, you found yourself in the perfect place. My name is Monica Reyes, and I am a TEDx speaker. I am a Kundalini yoga instructor and a psychosynthesis certified life coach. And I am here to share with you today why you are saying yes and why you may be overcommitting. So it's an interesting thing that happens when we do this, when we say yes to all of these different things. And I've found myself in this place so many times, not so much anymore now, because I'm going to share with you what I personally did as well as what I share with my clients. But when I used to find myself there, I would find myself completely saying yes to too many things, not being able to say no, thinking that I had more time than I did, right? Just being very reactive and also feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, and then being so mad at myself for saying yes to something I didn't want to do, and then not being able to get out of it. Like, oh man, I already said yes to this. I don't feel like doing this. How do I get out of it? And then forcing myself to do it, being exhausted all of the time. So we have these parts of us, right? So in our childhood, the majority of the world, nobody had a perfect childhood, right? Nobody, 0% of people had a perfect childhood. And we as children experienced events that might have been emotionally traumatic. And they don't have to be like crazy traumatic in order to be traumatic. It could have just been a conversation. It could have been somebody telling you something that then led you to adapt so that you felt a sense of safety, security, connection, or love. So I'm going to give you an example. So let's say that you had a parent that was constantly unpredictable, and maybe they were raging, maybe they're an alcoholic, or maybe you wanted to keep harmony in the household. And so every single time that they showed up in this way, you would adapt yourself in a certain way so that you could keep harmony in the household. And you did this as a child, and eventually it became who you were. You completely adapted your personality to fit the mold, to adapt so that you could complement this person or these family members so that it was harmony, because that's really what you wanted. It allowed you to feel safe, it allowed you to feel security, and maybe because the adults reacted in this way, you felt like you were loved every time that you adapted yourself in this way. And so now, as an adult, you're finding yourself people pleasing. You're finding yourself finding harmony. You don't want to say no, because no means conflict. And maybe you were, saying yes because you used to say yes to your father all of the time so that you didn't hear him yell. And now you're saying yes to everybody around you, to all people, strangers, your friends, people that are asking you, and that's what you're also attracting. So we find ourselves in these situations as adults, and these adaptive parts of ourselves are still running the show because they still believe that we are still in front of our rageaholic father. And I'm not saying that that's the situation that you went through. It could look very different. However, you might still have the very same pattern that might be just expressing itself in a slightly similar or different way. But this pattern is known as the people pleaser. It's the people pleaser, it's the caretaker, it's the self-sacrificer, is in essence putting others ahead of you before you think about yourself. And there's nothing wrong, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's your brain, it's a program. This part of you served you, it kept you safe, it kept you secure, it kept you loved, kept you connected. And so the first thing that we do is we thank it, right? And so you may not like it right now, like, oh, I hate that I did that. Oh, why did I do that, right? You might get mad at yourself. And so you're in essence getting mad at this part of you. And this part of you is probably still a child. They've been able to show that parts of us, part of our psyche, are actually stunted in growth. And so this part of you might even be that little girl or boy that's still afraid of whatever that environment was, and they're still showing up in that way in fear. And so every time you get angry or mad or judgmental, that part, it feels even less safe. It feels even doesn't feel very good about itself. You lose self-esteem, you lose integrity. There's a whole multitude of things that might happen. And so the first thing is like, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for working so freaking hard to keep me loved and to keep me connected, and I don't need that anymore because I'm an adult now and I can do this, right? And so we start to establish this relationship, and this is an opportunity for you to reparent yourself. Now you get to figure out, why are you here? What is this all about? Every time you show up and you overcommit, and every time you show up and you say yes to something you don't really, this little part of you gets something. So is it safety? Is it connection? Is it security? Is it love? And so any of those four things, you get to then create a reparenting relationship, and you get to provide that to yourself in a more healthy, balanced way, rather than overcommitting, rather than saying yes all of the time. You get to create that in a more balanced way, and you get to figure that out. And once you do, you'll see that there's going to be a release of the hold of having that urge to say yes, because now that part of you is getting what it needs. So that's part one. Part one is the appreciation. Part two is let's explore and find out what you need, and then it's giving that to yourself, right, in that healthy, balanced way. And then now we want to integrate, right, that part of you that was people pleasing. There's a quality there, right? You think about others, you're nurturing others, you bring harmony into the space. It's a beautiful quality. It doesn't have to be in that unbalanced way. And so we get to balance it. We get to integrate that into ourselves. And so what does it look like to be assertive, to be an advocate for ourselves, and to also be empathetic, and to also think of others? Like, what does that look like, right? And so stepping into that new space, what does that look like? That new me, how does that part of me think? How does the part of me act? What kind of decisions does she make? How does she say no, right? She doesn't have to say no by being mean or creating conflict. She gets to say no with empathy. She gets to stand up for herself and say, no, thank you. This isn't going to work for me because, right? Coming from that place from compassion and open heart. And that's really what you want, right? You're worried that perhaps this is going to disappoint this other person, that you're going to lose their connection, you're going to lose their love. So I asked you, I challenge you, is that truth? Are you really going to lose the relationship and the connection if you were to say no to this person? Probably not. And so moving from that integration and moving from stepping into that and exploring and journaling and self-reflection, and once you figure out what it is, then I challenge you to then take action, right? That using your will then from that place of this new you, taking action. So when you because the universe is going to provide you all the opportunity for you to do this. That's the beautiful thing about this life journey. When you're working through your process, the universe supports you. So you're going to start to get these requests. Hey, do you want to do this? And you get to say, no, actually, I don't. Thank you so much for asking. And if you say yes, that's okay. You get to then go back, you know what? I'm so sorry. I overplanned, I overcommitted. In fact, I can't make it, right? And you'll start to see how easy it is. And you'll start to see that people will actually respond in a great way. And maybe those that don't are used to you always saying yes. They're used to you always saying yes. And so sometimes you got to crack that foundation. You got to shake up that status quo. So just know that that might happen, right? It's you changing, but you're going to force them to change. You're going to force them to change, and they're going to start to really be able to sense, where you begin and where you end, where your boundaries are. They're going to start to feel your strength. They're going to start to feel this new you emerging. And if they're not they don't like it, then maybe they're not meant to be in your life. So if that's up for you to decide. But this is about you. This is about you rising. This is about you stepping into your power, into you being able to say no. And maybe it's about reframing the word no. For some reason, maybe no means something to you. And so how can you reframe no? Maybe no, more no's lead to yes. Maybe no is something that's of empowerment. Maybe no doesn't mean disappointment, like reframing that perhaps even so that it's not so hard for you to say. Like there's so many things. And the moral of the story is what we're doing is we're changing our relationship to the thing we want to shift. So if you want to stop saying more, you want to stop saying yes, then you change your relationship to the situation, to the people, to how you feel about it. You change your relationship. If you want to start saying more no, but you're not and you're resisting it, so changing your relationship to the word no. But just taking these steps, I was able to really empower myself to stop overcommitting. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is what we sometimes tend to do is when we overcommit because we think we've got more time than we do. And so one thing that really helped me get over that, move through that, was to connect intuitively. So imagining, okay, so I signed to, I've got Friday, I've got, 5 calls, or I'm about to schedule an event or something that next day. And part of me wants to say yes. Maybe it's because I've got FOMO. Maybe it's because I'm afraid that opportunity isn't going to come along. But I then go ahead and put myself in the shoes of Friday after 5 calls and having this. Am I really going to want to do that, right? Really, really allowing myself to feel into that rather than coming in from that place of scarcity, but really feeling into it in reality. And then realizing, okay, no, you know what? The event isn't going to work for me because I'm going to be exhausted and I'm coming from this place of scarcity. And when I'm able to do that, I get to choose and realize that there is an infinite amount of abundance in this world. And if this opportunity is only available this day, then another one will come along. And if that opportunity, you really want to make it, at least you know ahead of time that yes, I'm going to be tired, but I'm still going to do it, because now you're coming from empowered choice. You're empowering yourself to choose, rather than coming from this place of fear, of scarcity, of reactive. Completely different. And when you do that, now there is that less suffering, because when you went in to that Friday event by accident, right, by impulse, you might get mad at yourself. You might be in resistance. Oh, why did I do this? Why did I say yes to this? That's suffering. There's a suffering, a stain of suffering. Now you can't enjoy the event. Now, why the hell did you even show up? But if you get to choose and you're like, I know I'm going to be tired, but I'm going to choose this anyway, none of that suffering comes into play. Now you get to be fully present. Like, I'm exhausted, but hell yeah, I chose this. So I'm going to squeeze the crap out of this event. I'm going to be here, and I'm going to do this because I chose to be here. Completely different. Completely different. So I challenge you to take these steps. I invite you to empower yourself to say more no's. Maybe it's yes that you need to say, but to use these steps to allow yourself to get to that position where it is all choice. It is all choice, and you don't have to react. And knowing that this is a lifelong journey, and that you may, it may start off where you might fall off the bandwagon. And again, really the quality that you want to bring in here is compassion. Compassion, because this is just a program, and this is the way that you've been trained, and these parts of you have served you for so long, and and now you get to choose differently. So I hope that you got value out of this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you have something to share, I'd love to hear it. Go ahead and comment below. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe and hit that bell, because when you do, you will get the notification of any video that I may release. And so I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. And as always, make it a great day.